October 1, 1963, Nigeria became a republic. Yes, Nigeria became a republic on October 1st, 1963. But what does that really mean? Now let's get into it. What does it really mean to become a republic? Now, before 1960, Nigeria was under colonialism, which means that we were being colonized by the British. Now, the British colonized Nigeria, and while the British were colonizing Nigeria, there was no single head in Nigeria, which means we did not have an indigenous leader in Nigeria. Everything that we did in Nigeria was coming from Britain, and the head of state of Britain was the head of state of Nigeria also, which means that the king or the queen of Britain, the monarch of Britain, was the head of the Nigerian state also. But the thing is that the British colonized many places in Africa, many places in the Americas, and the British monarch, which was the king or the queen, could not go to every colony of Britain as at that time. So the British monarch had to pick a representative to represent him or her in those colonies. Now we're talking about Nigeria. In Nigeria, the representative of the British monarch, I mean the king or the queen, the representative of the British monarch was called the Governor General. Now we can start with the likes of Lord Lugard, Sir Hugh Clifford, Sir James Robertson. They were all representatives of the British monarch in Nigeria as at that time, because they were the mouthpiece, they were the representative of the British monarch, which means the head of state of Nigeria at that time was a representative of the Queen of England. But if we have to talk about it in depth, the actual head of state of Nigeria at that time was the British monarch. The king or the queen of Britain was the head of the Nigerian state, because we were under them. We were being colonized by the British officials at that time. But in 1960, Nigeria became independent, which means that we could now do some things ourselves. But the thing is that even at that independence, we were not fully independent, because the British monarch was still our leader, was still the head of the Nigerian state. She was still, that time it was the Queen Elizabeth II. Now, she was the queen, and she was at the same time the head of state of the Nigerian state, which means we had an head of state, but not a particular person that was from Nigeria, and an indigenous person. Now, in 1960, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe was chosen as the representative of the British Queen in Nigeria, and he was the Governor General because he was still representing the British monarch in Nigeria. But when Nigeria became a republic on October 1, 1963, it meant at that moment that Nigeria was now free to elect someone that is indigenous, to elect someone that is a native of Nigeria, someone that was born, someone who originates from Nigeria. Now it means we had the power to do everything ourselves. We were not sovereign, we were not absolute. We could pick from among us, not the Queen or the King of England still acting as our head of state. We were now totally free from the British, which means we now have our own. We have our own president. That's why we call Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe the first indigenous president of Nigeria, which means he was no longer representing the British monarch in Nigeria, but he was chosen by the people of Nigeria at that time. That is the meaning of a republic. A place that is headed by an elected president of that particular country, which is not representing anyone. But before Nigeria became a republic, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe was the Governor General, and he was only representing the British monarch in Nigeria. That is the meaning of a republic. Thank you.